Hi, it's Amy from Mrs. Amy 123, and today I'm going to be telling you 10 tips to make report writing less stressful, easier, and hopefully a little bit quicker for you. Tip number 1 is start as early as you can. Now I know it might not be possible, you might be watching this the weekend before reports are due, but just try, when you're thinking about reports, when report term comes up, start as early as you can. This is going to prevent that overwhelming feeling that we get if we try and do reports the last weekend before it's due. We feel like there's so much to do, we end up staying up till midnight most nights or even later trying to get them done, and we dedicate whole weekends. If we start earlier, spread it out, pace it out a little bit better, then we don't get that feeling, we don't waste all that time, and it is just a much less stressful time. Tip number 2, start with something fairly easy that you can get done relatively quickly. If we start out with something that we can do and tick off of our list, then we feel more inclined to get going with the rest of it. If we start off with something harder, we often procrastinate, we go and do everything else to avoid doing what we should be doing. But if we start with something that seems fairly simple, we get into it, we do it, when we get that feeling, that motivation, we get that flow going, and we're more likely to have a good experience in doing reports. For me, I like doing my ABEs first. So if you don't know what ABEs are, they're the ticker boxes that come at the end of reports that basically talk about how the child is socially, their enthusiasm for learning, those kind of ones. So I just sit down, I have a template made out in Word that I just go through and quickly fill out. I try not to give too much thought to it. I try and do it as quickly as possible, trust my gut feelings on it, and then boom, it's done, and I'm much inclined to continue on with reports because I've already got something done. I've already started. Tip number 3, work to a schedule or a plan to do your report comments. So rather than just going whole hog in and trying to do a little bit of everything at once, work out how long you have until your reports are due and break it all up into parts. So I've already told you I start off with my ABEs first because it's something really easy that I can tick off really quickly. Then I move on to general comments. I do general comments next because to me they're the kind of hardest thing to do because you've got to really think about it, you've got to observe students. It's not as easy as getting a work sample and just deciding what they can and can't do. You've really got to think about how you're wording it, and it can be it can take up a lot of time, so I prefer to do that next. Then I move on to my maths comments, and then I do my English comments last. Within that though, I'm not doing this week I'm going to do that, this week I'm going to do that, and this week I'm going to do this, and I have to be finished by the end of the week. What I like to do is say I'm going to start generals in this week, and then the next week I'm going to finish generals and start maths. And then the next week I'm going to finish maths and start English, and so on. And that just gives you a little bit more freedom, a little bit more flexibility, because it's so easy to say, yep, I've started it, even if you've done one comment, but to try and finish it all with one week puts a lot of pressure on you. And if you get sick or you have a stressful week or just something is happening that interrupts your schedule, then there's not as much pressure because you've got that little bit of an extra leeway to getting it done. Tip number 4 is to do your comments offline. And what I mean by that is by not doing them on your actual reporting system. Get a Word document open, set up a table, students' names, general, maths and English comments across the top, and write them into the Word document, and do all your grading onto performers, or print out templates and ticket boxes and things like that. The reason why I don't like doing my reports on the actual program is because, number 1, it can take you a long time to log into it. So for me, I don't know if it's the same in your state, but I have to log into my portal first, then I have to click on at least 3 or 4 links before I even get into the reporting program. Now, if that's taking me a minute to log on, and I do that at least 30 times within my term while I'm writing reports, that's 30 minutes just gone just from logging on. So that's just an easy way to save time. The second reason is because I've actually heard horror stories of teachers going on, doing their comments online, and the whole system crashing and them losing everything. I just can't imagine that happening to me. So that's another reason why I like to do it offline, because it's so easy to back it up. I can just put it on a USB and I can back it up on a couple of computers or put it onto cloud storage, something like that. The third reason I like to do it offline is actually tying in really nicely with my tip number 5, and that is my copy and paste secret. And really, this shouldn't be a secret. It seems like such an obvious tip that every teacher should be doing, but for some reason it's not so obvious. Reports don't have to be unique. They don't all have to be different. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you write reports. I'm serious here. No one is going to notice. No one is going to care. You can copy and paste your report comments. So first of all, the way you can do it is in maths and English comments. If you've got two kids who can do the exact same thing or can't do the exact same thing, then you just take that comment and you paste it into the other kids who can do that thing. You don't need to rewrite that comment in a different way for a different child. Just copy and paste. Even if parents see it, even if two parents get together and they go, oh, this sentence here is the same, that's okay. There is particular outcomes that students have to meet in particular year levels, and there's going to be overlap. It's okay to copy and paste. The second way I like to copy and paste is the ultimate tip that I can give you for saving time when you're writing your reports, and that's to copy and paste your generals from previous years. So what I like to do is when I'm ready to do my general comments, I go and take last year's general comments from the same semester, and I start reading each sentence individually, and I ask myself, who does this sentence sound like? Which kid in my current class does this sound like? And then I'll take that comment and I'll paste it over into my new document that I've got ready for this semester, and just keep copying and pasting until I've gone through my whole report comments from the previous year. Now, if there's a comment that doesn't fit a child, I will leave it. I'm not going to just be making up things about children to save myself work. No, this is about reading through your comments and really asking yourself, who does this sound like? Does it fit somebody in your class? Then what I'll do is I'll go to my comments from this year, from the copy and pasted version, and I'll look through it and I'll find the ones that have the largest amount of copy and paste, and I'll start with them first because they're the closest to being finished. And I'll read through it for a couple of things. One, I'll read through it to make sure that the comments are still reflecting the child. Is this actually this child, or do I need to make tweaks to it? The second thing that I'll read through for is making sure that it's cohesive. Is it making sense, or is there missing sentences, or do I need to tweak something in the flow of it? And then the third thing I'll think about is, have I said everything I need to about this child? Because maybe there's a lot of comments from my last year's reports that I can copy and paste over, but I've missed the bigger picture, or I've missed the comment that I really need to address for that child. So I'll make sure the key important things are in there. And then obviously I'll change the pronouns and change the names to make sure that that's all good. But once I've done that, and I get to the comments that get to the students that I haven't copied and pasted as much for, that's when I'll really start thinking about, okay, what else can I write for them? What else do I need to write for them? But I've already got at least 50% of my comments done just from copying and pasting. It saves so much time, especially if you end off your reports or start your reports in similar ways. Copying them over rather than writing them can be a lot quicker. Tip number 6 is to start grading student work samples whenever you get them. So you don't need to mark everything. That's something that I do in my classroom. I don't mark everything. Sometimes I get students to mark it and it gets glued straight away without me really citing it too much. Sometimes it's a quick stamp, stamp, stamp because we've gone through and marked the work as a class, or we've talked about the answers, and I don't really need to look at it that well. The third reason I might mark work is if I'm giving feedback to the students, or I need something for my records that's going to inform my future teaching. But the last reason that I'll mark work is to actually grade it and to look at it and go, is this an A, B, C, D, or E example of work? And I will record that into my assessment file so that when reporting time comes, I have a whole heap of assessments that I've done over the course of the semester that I can look at to get their grade from, rather than giving them a whole heap of assessments at the last minute of the term. I do have another video on this if you're interested. It's called How I Grade HASS. Now, while it's about HASS work and it uses HASS examples, it is the same method that I use for any other subject that I teach that's not English or maths. So go and check that out if you're interested. I'll link it in the box below. Number 7 is to have some accountability or a motivation of some sort to do your reports. So maybe it's just meeting up with your teacher bestie and talking them through the process and just keeping each other accountable, making sure you're working on it each week and giving each other tips and tricks and working through it together. Or maybe it's picking a reward for every stage that you do. You know, once you've got your general comments done, do you get a piece of chocolate or or a new handbag? Is there a reward right at the end that you can get? Maybe there's something you've been wanting to buy for yourself but it's a bit splurgy. Well, say once I've got all my report comments done, I'm going to buy that item. You can make it even more motivating by taking a picture of that item and putting it as your screensaver on your computer or your phone and looking at it every time you go to do reports. This is what's going to help you get started. So pick something that's going to really work for you to help motivate you to get reports done. Tip number 8 is to have a bit of a template for how you're going to approach each of your comments. So for maths, I always like to start with number and algebra, then go into measurement and geometry and statistics and probability if I'm reporting on all of them that semester. But within each of those, I will pick key outcomes to address in semester 1 and then have different outcomes to address in semester 2. This just makes sure that I'm not overlapping and I don't have to go back and check my comments from the previous semester to make sure that I'm not writing the same thing. The same thing can be done for English comments, so think about particular things that you want to comment on in each semester. And also for general comments, have a little bit of a formula going. So I like to start my general comments with 3 virtues that the students display and then finish it off with kind of like a well done on the semester's work, or it's been a pleasure having you in the class, some sort of nice ending comment. And by having this structure, it just makes starting each comment a lot easier and getting your head around what exactly you want to put in each comment. And it can save you a lot of time. Tip number 9 is to pick some really good key assessments to use to write your reports on. So obviously we have a lot of assessments that we do within the semester that go towards grades, but when we actually write comments, we can base them just off of one work sample if it's a good work sample. So for maths, I have these maths tests that I made up, and you can get these in my TPT store or on my website, shameless plug. But what I did was I have all the outcomes written down on the side, and then I have a whole heap of questions that address those outcomes. So you can be assured that students are showing you exactly what they can or can't do. There's nothing worse than basing a comment on a test where there's been one question on that skill and maybe they just misread the question, or maybe they made a silly mistake but they do know how to do the content. That problem won't happen in these tests because it's giving you so many questions on that one topic that you can really be assured that students either do or don't know it depending on how they do on the question. To show you where the students are at. So even if they're not achieving the C grade standard, it's still going to show you what they can do. And I think that's really important in maths and English comments, that we're not just doing negatives, we're not just saying they can't do the grade standard, we're actually saying the things that they can do as well. So these are great for that. They're also really good when you go to write your report comments because they've got the outcomes here. So for example, this kid here, for the recognize, model, read and write and order numbers, they did really, really well in this section. They can do that. There's your report comment. Harmony can recognize, model, read and write numbers to at least 100. Boom, just so easy. In one simple work sample, my maths comments are done for number and algebra. So they're really, really great if you want to take reports home with you. Instead of taking mounds and mounds and mounds of books home to try and write your report comments and trying to fish out samples from all over the place to get your comments, you've just got it in one place and you only need to take a stack of tests home. I personally don't like doing any of my reports at home. I have young children and I don't want to take up any of their time. So I leave my reports for during school time and my home life is just for my kids. For reading, I like to use the PM benchmarks or probe running records because it's a one-on-one assessment. You can get lots of information. It's very, very targeted. And what I do is while they're reading to me and answering the comprehension questions, I'll jot down some keywords about things that I want to write comments on, and then I just have to take that one sheet when I'm writing the comments and just pull from those keywords. For writing, I like to pick a really good writing sample, usually in persuasive or narrative text. And as teachers, we see their writing so often that we know whether it's a good reflection of their average work standard or not. So we can be pretty confident of taking what they have or haven't done within that writing sample and saying generalized comments within our writing comments. I also like to use my rubrics. I'll link below if you want a copy of them. You can get them for free, which show you, once you've graded your students on them, will show you what students need to do to take their writing to the next level, which can make some really good goal-orientated comments in your reports, but it's also going to show exactly what they can do. And finally, tip number 10 is to make sure that you get help and support where you need it. So the first thing you need to make sure you're doing is going to your admin or your department and checking any guidelines you have for writing reports. They'll tell you exactly how long your comments need to be, exactly what subjects you're reporting in. There is no point writing a humongous essay of a comment and then finding out that you would have been okay doing half as much or even a quarter. So make sure you're checking exactly what is required of you to do. Also, check out your department for resources. If you are in WA, we have the judging standards, which tell you exactly what students need to do to achieve an A, B, C, D or E grade. So make sure you're using things like that that can make your life easier. Also, if you're a new graduate or if you are a teacher who is really struggling with coming up with how to write the comments and you don't feel confident enough in your own writing ability, you might like to check out a program called Report. If you are a new graduate or you're a teacher who really struggles to come up with the wording for writing comments, you might like to check out a program called Report Robot. Basically what it is a whole heap of checklists. You go in there, you write the effort the child's put down for a subject, you write in the rough grade that they've had, you tick some different social skills and stuff that they display, and it will generate comments for you. Now this can be really, really good to copy and paste. You can regenerate the comment as many times as you need to until it really sounds like how you want it to sound. They've got lots of different options in there, and you can copy and paste bits and pieces over, or you can do the whole thing. So Report Robot can be really, really great. I tried it last year and I actually found that it slowed me down quite substantially. I am much better just to get them out of my head and onto paper and write them down. It's really up to you as to how confident you feel with writing reports, as to whether you think something like that might help you. The last thing that I want to talk to you guys about today is 2 things that I have set up to help support you guys through the report writing process. The first is a free email report writing series. Basically, you can sign up with your email address, and each week you're going to receive an email from me that helps walk you through what you should be doing that week in report writing, some tips and tricks to make it a little bit less stressful and a bit easier. Very, very similar to the tips that I've given you today, but going in more in depth. And that is completely free, so you can sign up to that below. But wait, before you go and sign up for that, I want to talk to you about the other thing that I've done. Because I did the report writing email series last semester, I've already gotten tons of feedback on how I can make it better or what more you guys need out of me to really help you through this time. So I have written a report writing course. Basically, you can jump on, sign up to it, and work your way through modules that help you get your reports done. Now, it is filled with more content and more resources than the email series had. And you also have the ability to work through the content at your own pace. You don't need to wait for that email each week, and you can access it on whatever day of the week you want, at whatever time you want. You don't have to wait for that email to come through. Now, the other thing that I've added to this course is exclusive access to a Facebook group. So you can jump on there anytime you need, if you need some accountability, if you have a question you're having trouble with, or maybe you just need to kick up the butt to get on with your reports. You can stop in there, do up a post, and me or somebody else in that group is going to be able to comment back to you as quickly as we can. So that is a great thing that I've got going for you guys. Now, it does cost a little bit of money, but basically it's just to help me through the hosting fees of having that course on this website. So I really hope you'll consider joining us for that course. Otherwise, like I said, there is a free email series and you can sign up to that below. So that's it. That's 10 tips for working through your reports for this semester. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you're feeling a little bit more motivated to start and you're getting your head around things and you're feeling a little bit more confident with everything. Feel free to share this video with your teaching buddies, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!